Welcome back, gamers. Justin here with you again, and today we're going to do some sprint planning. So we are coming to the end of our current iteration, and so it's time to show you what we're going to work on in the next 2 weeks. So before I do that, though, I want to jump into Codex, and so there were a lot of requests, maybe not a lot, but a few requests to kind of open up our development strategy and development process to the community. And we're happy to do that. You know, there's like, obviously we're community supported. We're here working on the features and functionality that you guys have recommended to us and that we think you want. So, of course we want to be open about that. So with all of that said, we have made our Codex project public now. We were using Asana previously to this, and frankly, Asana is pretty expensive. It gave a lot more features and functionality, but it was probably just a little bit overkill for this project and for what we're actually doing here. So we made the decision just yesterday, actually, to move away from Asana. We're going to go solely into Codex. And let me kind of explain the process. So for you techies out there, I guess, those of you that are not so much techie, maybe skip ahead a minute or so. But basically, our internal process has always been to track our higher level epics. And then once they become prioritized into a sprint, we take that and break it down into Azure DevOps. So we are using Azure DevOps to track all of our code base, all of our scripts, all of our repositories, all of the code deployments, pipelines, etc. And so when we look at the stuff that we're looking at right now inside of Codex, as far as the individual cards, those get translated into epics inside of Azure DevOps, which then get broken down into features, stories, tasks and bugs, tests, whatever it may be that's associated to it. So, so that's kind of the process. Now, we will not show Azure DevOps. So, when we do these sprint planning sessions and stuff, especially via video like this, you're only going to see kind of the higher level stuff. When we start to get into like the true technical nitty gritty of it, that all happens inside of Azure DevOps, but that's probably far too low level for what the average viewer will want to see. So those of you that are interested, we're happy to kind of talk through that more, but for the bigger group, we'll keep it higher level here. So just anticipate that moving forward. So let me jump back over. So this is your view. Unfortunately, I don't think in a public view you actually get to see like our milestones and such. So what we did is we went through and we've set up our milestones here, and that's kind of what's across the top here. So every 2 weeks, at the end of a sprint cycle, we have a major milestone, and they're indicated in red here. So the way we do our sprint planning is, basically we look at what we need to accomplish at the end of that sprint, and then we sit down and plan that upcoming sprint out. So this particular sprint ends tomorrow, the current sprint, and and this is kind of a new process for us as far as planning this out like this. So we've been operating in sprints, but not so much with like a true end goal in mind. So basically what we did yesterday is we sat down, we broke down and said, okay, what do we need to accomplish in order to meet our closed beta goal of May 1st? And so that's what each of these milestones represent. So today, if we look at the 18th, we want to have the menu, the movement, and we want to get our Steam page up and operational. So if at the end of the next 2 weeks, we feel like this would be a successful sprint if we achieve those three things. So we have the menu system in place to where you can actually load the game up to a nice looking menu. The movement, you load into Sunshine Estates, the current zone that we're working on. You can move around, crouch, sprint, jump, all of that good stuff. And then we just have the placeholder Steam page up and operational. It'll probably be listed as like coming soon or something like that, or 2022. But the goal is to at least get that up and operational. So the rest of these in green, it's like creating videos. So it's devlog, creating the developer logs, creating this particular sprint planning. And basically what we've done is we have reset our sprint cadence. So we're going to reset back to sprint 1 because we want you guys to be involved. We're actually, technically it's like sprints 9 or 10 at this point. But we're going to go ahead and reset that back to 1 so that it makes sense moving forward, and we have all of this kind of memorialized to be able to track it long term. So what I'm going to go ahead and do here, I'm going to click into this menu movement and Steam milestone, and you can see that we've already gone through here and we've already kind of broken this out into high level as far as what we need to accomplish. We've broken it out by deck right now is how we're looking at this, so it's broken down by art, by code, and then just by Steam. So if we look at the art, in order to create a menu, we obviously need to have some artwork that goes along with that. So we're going to create the menu layout and design. We're going to create the necessary artwork that may be required for that. And we'll probably use some external tools, maybe like Adobe XD or something like that to design that out and help us out with that. But basically we'll create the artwork for that, and then there's some tasks down here inside of the code base to actually implement that. So Unity helps out quite a bit with a lot of this stuff, but there will undoubtedly be some code that has to actually go into the system here to allow for clicks and user input and stuff like that. So if we jump into the code, the vast majority of this under the code base is all related to movement. This is one of those things where the team kind of went back and forth, and we looked at packages like ultimate character movement and stuff like that. And ultimately we decided that we didn't want to purchase this package. Instead, we'd rather build this out to where we have full control over it, and we can control exactly how things work and how they behave, and more importantly, we understand everything that's going on under the hood. If you purchase a package from the asset store or from a third party or something like that, there's usually a learning curve that's associated with that, right? It's like you have to learn their code, you have to understand it, you have to figure out what all the little knobs and dials and stuff do inside of the script. And we just like to avoid that, and basically what we decided was that in the same amount of time, we can write our own first-person controller as compared to grabbing somebody that's already done all of this work and then us learning how to use that system. So, in the same amount of time, basically, it was a kind of a wash in our opinion. So we decided to just go ahead and create it ourselves to where we truly have full control and we know exactly what's going on under the hood to make the characters move and do what they need to do. So, if you look through this, a lot of this, some of these are very high level, and they were basically just kind of placeholder cards that we put into place. We've taken those and broken them out into a little bit, a little bit smaller, just decomposed them a little bit into a little bit smaller snippets. But ultimately, almost all of this is related to movement. So, they create menu systems in there because there may be a little bit of code that goes with that, but ultimately it's all about creating the movement models. So things like taking weight into account, so the more gear and the more loot you're carrying, the slower the character will become, the more noise you'll make, that type of stuff. We also want to allow for some complex movements, so, crawling through a window or something like that. A lot of games, you just kind of jump and crouch and then you're just magically through the window, and that's just not really how it works in real life, right? So we want to implement a system where you have to kind of crawl through a window. And then there's also some elements to that where you can open and close windows that get implemented later on down the milestone path here. So, things like just simple things like head bob for crouching, sprinting, walking. It seems like a simple thing, but there are quite a few kind of little subtle things that go into that. So, we'll implement that type of stuff. If the player is, so if you've taken damage to your arms or legs, that will also impact your movement. So damage to your arms will obviously impact your aiming ability and kind of how long it takes you to aim down sight and that type of stuff. Where legs obviously will just slow you down, make you make more noise. Maybe like Tarkov where you're kind of screaming in pain or something as you try to run on a broken limb. But, nonetheless, there's that will go into play there. So we've got a few more menus here. It's mostly just wrapped around inputs, interactions, scenes, that kind of stuff, like very high level stuff that we'll break down and decompose inside of Azure DevOps once we have a finer, detail of what that'll require. Then we've got, just some, again, high level ones here. So we know that we need to implement the walking, the sprinting, the jumping, the crouching. We want to speed up or slow down based on the angle that you're walking up and down. So obviously as a real person, if you're walking up a 40-degree slope, you're going to do that much slower than you would if it were a flat surface or a slightly downhill surface. Same with a very steep downhill. Instead of smoothly walking down that, we want a kind of a slide type effect. So, you may kind of stumble and slide down the steeper angles as compared to gradually traversing like many games do. Then again, we want to be able to go through windows. So a few of the more complicated movement scenarios there, sliding down the angles we just talked about. And the big one here is inertia. So all of this is really straightforward. You hit the A key and you move left, right? But we really want to implement an inertia system into this just right from day one. No more of this kind of AD spam, that type of stuff where, you're getting shot at and you just AD spam and because of that, you're able to avoid damage. We really want to make it kind of slow to change directions. That may be impacted by skills and stuff later, but at least initially everybody will have the same inertia settings and factors with that. So, again, that's one of the things that we absolutely have deemed highly critical from day one. So from day one, inertia will be in the game, and that's something that we're going to implement in this sprint. And then finally, we've got the strafing movement, and then also falling. And falling is another one of those big things where, if you look at a game like Call of Duty, even Escape from Tarkov, you jump off of a building and you hit a certain speed and you just stop falling, and I'm sure we've all seen that. You get these chads that jump off like a 5-story building and they kind of reach their max fall speed and then they just kind of float to the ground from that point forward. Not how gravity works, turns out. So, we want to really have that kind of realistic falling in place. And of course, the faster you fall when you land, as all things go up, they must come down type of thing. So, the faster you're falling, the more damage you'll take to a point where it just kills you. So, just real life kind of common sense stuff, right? So anyways, though, I don't want to take a ton more of your time here. That's kind of where we're at. And I know you've been staring at this screen here for basically this whole menu or whole video. So, I appreciate you making your way through it. If you do have any questions about this or about, our deeper process or anything like that, by all means, jump into our Discord, hit me up. My username is Jammin411. So if you join our Discord, you can always find me on the side there. And, if you're interested at all in supporting this, please head over to our Patreon page. If you can't do a monthly contribution, we completely understand. Maybe think about doing like a one-time support or maybe hitting up our merch store and picking up some of that as well. Got some really cool hoodies and stuff with our logo on it. So, just any way you can. We highly appreciate your support. But nonetheless, this is what this sprint looks like. I'll probably see you again on, I think, Monday. I'll do another developer log and, kind of show you what progress we made here over the last week or so. And there has been a little bit. So good stuff. Appreciate your time. Reach out on Discord if anything comes up or if you have any thoughts. And look forward to talking to you on Monday. Thanks, guys.